Hi, I'm Susan Jamieson of Bridget Beari Designs. We're in Richmond, Virginia. We are a full-service interior design firm. We also have a retail store called Bridget Beari Home Store, and we have product design, Bridget Beari Papers, which are wallpaper, and Bridget Beari Colors, which are paint colors. We've been in business, 30 years, so a long time. It's been a while. Been through a lot of changes with that. We have a fairly large firm of 5 people. Maybe that's small, but large to us. And we're small but mighty. We work all over. We work internationally. We work in Virginia, where we're based, and Florida, Atlanta, everywhere. So we're always traveling. We like to call ourselves the traveling designers. So that's the Bridget Beari story. I went to college to study economics, and that was completely boring, right? A class of 200, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? This is terrible. And it wasn't the subject matter. It was just the big class, and I just didn't connect. And my parents were moving from Richmond to my grandmother's house in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I was at William and Mary in Williamsburg for college. So my mother had hired an architect and a designer to renovate the house, but she was afraid that they would talk her into things that she wasn't gonna like. So she asked me to come home from college on the meeting days and meet with them, and I hit it off with the designer. I was like, this is fabulous. I love doing this. And so she and I worked together on that house, and I actually became one of her interns. And that's kind of how it all started. I was at William and Mary, so I ended up taking art classes. So I paint and I sculpt as well. So I finished my art degree at William and Mary, and then went to VCU, which is Virginia Commonwealth University, for another degree, that my dad was like, what? What are you doing? In interior design, that would be a BFA, to finish, to round out my interior design. And then started with another firm in Richmond. Worked with her for about 5 years during school at VCU every summer, and then worked for her for 2 years, and then said, I'm going on my own. My superpower is paint colors. Obviously, one customer likes to call me the queen of color because for some reason, I don't know, I can always pick out the color, whether it's got the slight underhue or it's got the right lighting. I've always seemed to be able to use that for, picking out colors in houses, picking out colors for anything that the customer needs for making furniture or whatever, because it is a specialty. I think you're either good at it or you're not. Some designers just aren't good at picking colors, and I think that's why we started our own paint line, was because I had so many colors that I tweaked just slightly, tweaked the color, a little bit brighter, a little bit lighter. And there were so many that I had that I would use over and over that we just decided that would be a great way to have a product line. It ended up that I worked with another girl on a nonprofit project, and she happened to have a retail store, and we had to pick a color to go with a Schumacher fabric, and nobody could find the right color. Even though you've got spandex galore, you never have the right color. And so she and I mixed colors and found the perfect blue, and it was whoa, we got the greatest color ever. And so she said, well, you should really have your own your own paint line. And so that's kind of how it started. I was like, okay, well, why not? Let's do that. Let's have our own paint line. Bridget and Beari are dogs. It's not my name. That's why people call me Bridget all the time. They're always saying, hey, Bridget. I'm like, yep, I guess that's me. But, that's the way it goes. So we give money back to rescue organizations. So all of the paints and wallpapers themselves are named after people's pets, clients' pets. There's a chicken, there's a rooster, there's a horse. We had contests on Instagram, for people that want to name a paint or a wallpaper. So it's been a fun project. I think it's interesting because when we started, it was only magazines that you could see other people's work, and there was the design center, and that was about it. And you saw sales reps, but you didn't really have all that we have now, which I think is so great. I remember going to High Point, and they didn't really want designers at High Point. You know, there was only furniture people, and it was not as friendly. And then all of that changed. All of it changed to be more inclusive of designers, you know, having highlighting designers. Maybe that changed with, you know, furniture manufacturers and products, you know, getting custom lines with designers and really you know, thinking that they had something to say or had something to give to the industry in terms of not just a product designer for, you know, a furniture company, but maybe more in even stylists. And then in general, you know, we would rip out magazine pages, and we hand drafted everything, we sketched everything. And, you know, now, phew, you know, I still will sketch because I think, you know, on the fly when you're trying to do something, but now I'll sketch on my iPad instead of the hand sketches. I think all of the tools, CAD in school, I think CAD was just beginning. You know, it was very cumbersome and clunky. You couldn't move things around. I mean, I think all of the tools we have now between drafting and even the computer. I mean, I don't even think I think I had the first generation Mac, you know? I mean, it was like pretty basic. But all of that makes design so much more accessible. You know, now we just have, even making products, I think has been amazing because it's easier for design, the digital printing. That's kind of how we got into the wallpaper line, because people were like, oh, well, you have all these patterns that you sketch when you're on vacation and all. They'd make great wallpaper. And then I was able to find wallpaper companies that were, you know, easily digitally printing things on grass cloth, on metallic, and giving them, you know, design ideas and then coming up with product. So, I mean, that was, you know, that's just wouldn't have been heard of before. You would have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and manufacture it yourself. And it's just not, you know, it's great. You know, anyone really can do that if they have that desire to make a product, but that has all changed. And, you know, I think we also have gotten into the retail side of things. So because we have products, it turned out that we needed to be in retail to sell our own products. So that's a whole, I don't think I would have done that 30 years ago. You know, it just wasn't what, you know, it was just design one-on-one with the client. And I think other designers maybe are afraid of people having too much access or not having, you know, they have access to all the materials or all the fabrics. But I still think that people that want designers don't know how to put stuff together. So even if you want to, you might want to buy something, but you still don't know how to coordinate it all together. And I find that when I go to people's houses and they've bought all this stuff, it still doesn't go together. You know, they've done all this, but they're like, something's missing here. Well, what's missing is the vision. What's missing is the coordination. What's missing is, you know, what's in my head that I bring to you. So, you know, I don't think design will ever go away, and or the designer will ever go away. But it definitely has changed in 30 years. For the better, I would say. I have one client who we get along so well and we do amazing work together. She really trusts me. She bought a piece of property in the Yucatan Peninsula, which is in Tulum, Mexico. And we did a project where we built a very eco-friendly house, sort of in the jungle, right between the ocean and the lagoon. So it was super cool, very interesting when you've got the Mayan workers who speak Mayan, and then the foreman who speaks Spanish, and then the Italian contractor, and then I'm the American designer, and we're all using sign language to figure out what height, everything, you know, just and I like a dream project to me is when you're really challenged, when I'm challenged. And I felt like that was a super challenging, it was a super challenging location because it was so isolated. It was super challenging in terms of language barrier. And it was also challenging in terms of learning about eco-friendly design. So this was in the jungle. So you had very strict limitations on what you could build with. There's a wind turbine for power. It had its own septic system, its own water well. So, I mean, all of that's very interesting. You know, we couldn't put just regular old plumbing in there because it would rust because of the salt air. In Mexico, they changed the custom law. We had sisal rugs that we were bringing in containers. They changed the custom law like a month before no sisal rugs. So the woman was like, do you want me to just destroy them? I mean, they were stark sisal rugs. I'm like, well, we can't ship them back to the United States. So they were trash. So things like that, you know, you're like, oh. I think they would be surprised to know that my house is all neutral. Even though, you know, the queen of color here, it doesn't mean, and I don't think that, you know, not having color, just having neutral is still color. I mean, I think, as I said before, I think that's, you know, the subtleties of creams, the subtleties of browns, having the right texture in a neutral room, and kind of my house kind of goes from gradations of creams and whites. So, you know, having that feel cohesive, I think is, you know, very interesting in terms of color. But I certainly love color, but I think people would be like, oh, you're the queen of color, but you don't have colorful walls. Well, white is a color, people. Neutral, beige, they're all colors.